Okay, I am live with a really interesting guy. I'm really excited to talk to him. I heard his story on contact of ours, Darren Mitchell's podcast, and this is David Fraser from Bunky Life.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
So Bunky Life, what is Bunky Life quickly for anybody who's not familiar with the name?
Sure. So Bunky Life, we are in the construction industry, but what we're famous for are small log cabins called bunkies that can be easily built in a weekend without needing a permit or a second mortgage. Ultimately, we help families create extra space for more meaningful connection.
See, I can tell you've been on Dragon's Den because you have that pitch just like perfectly worded.
I put a little bit of work into that one, I'm not going to lie.
It's just down to a science. Yeah. So these bunkies, so people buy them. Is this primarily for their cottages? What are the use cases?
So our bread and butter with Bunky Life is I've got a cottage and it's getting smaller because my family's getting bigger. So I'm running out of bedrooms. And so the bunkie is the perfect solution for that problem. That's probably 85% of our clients. There's another kind of 5% of people that are like looking to kind of like, it's like maybe an office or another kind of tertiary solution.
Okay.
Then there's about 10% people that are utilizing bunkies as an Airbnb. So it's like an actual business investment. So that might be just the average homeowner that wants to kind of have some cash flow in the backyard, or campgrounds. We also have golf courses utilizing our products to create stay and play packages.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So there's kind of a wider range. That's our B2B end. But the bread and butter is still, the families with cottages.
Okay. What about at people's principal residences?
Also, I'd say, it's a good chunk of them too, right? It's the solution for, that's actually how I got into bunkies personally. So I live just outside of Toronto, Ontario, and kind of in the country. We ran out of bedrooms when we had our first kid, and my family lives 3 hours away. Carrie, my wife, lives 4 hours away. And so it was like, where are we going to put mom and dad when they come to visit now? So the bunkie was that solution. It was like, okay, there's a little bedroom in the backyard, essentially. They can kind of come crash there and it basically bridged them not having to stay in a hotel or sleep on a couch. Yeah.
Did you see it as an investment at any point? Like, were you planning on doing an Airbnb on them, or it was just primarily for that?
So the reality of it was I had already rented out an Airbnb prior to building it. I had a test listing on Airbnb with kind of a stock photo of the bunkie and then the view up on my little hill. Mm-hmm. And people seemed pretty keen on it. So I thought, I'll do it. So I actually got the bunkie and made the bunkie and started the listing. So the very first day I finished the bunkie, a guest coming, I was like literally like finishing the floor and like blowing up the actual air mattress when they arrived.
Oh, wow.
So it was cash flow from positive right from day one.
Yeah. So you built it yourself?
Yeah.
And do you have a building background?
So my wife and I built a second property, like basically a second house on the property. So we had been doing that.
So you had your first house, you built a second house.
Yeah, technically an addition, in case the town of Erin's listening, but it's basically a second house, right?
And you still needed more space.
Well, we were like 1/5 of the 5-year process through that house at that point. So yeah, we didn't have the house finished at all. We were just starting the house back when we started the bunkies, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's finished now, pretty much. We have the occupancy permit. We still got to connect the two houses together, but we're living in the house now.
Okay. And now bunkies, is that an Ontario term? Is that kind of a...
Yeah, it actually is. It traces back to like the idea of like a bunk house. Mm-hmm. So it's very much like a Muskoka, Ontario term, although we're getting that name out there a little more.
Yeah.
If you think of like a little log cabin, you're in the ballpark what a bunkie looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you transition from building one for yourself, just for your parents and your wife's parents to stay in, to now you were just on Dragon's Den. You've built this, I think, really large company. It's just such a cool story. Take us maybe, to the next step of after building your first one.
So it was more like responding to what customers were saying. So people were staying in the bunkies. They're like, this is amazing. So then I built a couple more, and then built a bathroom. So it was kind of campground style. There's one bathroom and 3 units share that one bathroom. So the Airbnb thing was blowing up and people started going, well, make me a bunkie. I want a bunkie too. So then I did a couple for friends and family, and it escalated from there essentially. So 2018 was our first year of seriously selling to the greater market. We launched a contest where we gave one away, and the response of that was nuts. So the first year, like we only sold I think 30 or 40 bunkies, but just like the buzz that we got from that, the word of mouth was huge. And then I tried it again next year, and we tripled, and then we tripled again the next year. So we tripled twice or 3 times, and in 2021, we were actually approached by one of the producers of Dragon's Den, and they're kind of like, "Oh, you guys should consider trying out for the show." So we did our little video.
Is that common for them to find people as opposed to people applying to be on the show?
I'm not sure, but I think in this particular case, like the producer was like a fan of ours, like had been in our contest and like was kind of a fan. And so they were probably looking for that niche, that year. Like ultimately Dragon's Den is about making great television, right? So they want to make sure they've got, this category and that category and different things that are kind of trendy at the time. So they approached us but we went through the legitimate application and we got picked and then we went on the actual show.
So what's the application look like?
So this might have been different because we were COVID year, but we did an online kind of quick little handy cam video, then another second audition for some producers, like via Zoom at that point.
And this is my business, this is what we do. Are you breaking down the numbers of your business?
I think they asked about that, but they weren't that concerned about the numbers. I think they're just thinking of it from a perspective like, are they coherently communicating and are they, not crazy?
Yeah.
And then do they have...
And will this be entertaining on the show?
Exactly.
Because so many people get to that final pitch and they just don't seem to have their numbers in line.
Oh, yeah.
Or they haven't made a single sale yet. Yeah. And I'm like, are they setting these people up for failure? Like, what's going on?
There might be a little bit of William Hung, American Idol scenario going on. Like, I mean, they got to make good TV at the end of the day, right? So, I mean, my whole mission that year was like, don't embarrass myself on national TV. So we knew our numbers, right? And
you guys had your pitch down solid.
We did. We worked on it like very extensively. Like the week before we filmed it, I hired like a personal chef to come cook for us. Like I was like all about that pitch. It's all we cared about.
Wow.
We pitched to anyone I knew who's like a good entrepreneur, or we pitched to like 10 people and they all gave us feedback and we reiterated it at least 20 times. So like it had been really sanded down by the time it made the TV show, and then the TV show also edits. And so we really were like kissing their butts, like, please give us a good edit. Please give us a good edit. Right. Mm-hmm. And then
were you actually saying that? Like, hey, can you leave this part in, take that part out?
But we were just like, no, they're not going to let us do that. We're just trying to be really nice to everyone, which we always are anyways. But
sure,
because ultimately they can make you look terrible, even if you did an okay pitch. If you had a mediocre pitch, they can make you look awful if they really want to with editing, right? Because
that's a bit anxiety reducing. Like, all right, here's my national television moment. Do what you will with it.
Yeah, it was funny. We did a live stream where our family watched. You could watch our family watching us watch the first episode of Dragon's Den that we were on. And I remember being like, oh, they really cut a lot there. At one point we're just like, well, they cut like half the pitch, but that's what makes good TV. And I think they really did a great edit. They kept the essentials of the story. They kept the essentials of the business.
Yeah. So they kind of stuck with the hard hitting things in that pitch.
Yes.
Okay. So now you ended up getting a deal. I think it was the first deal with all 5 dragons.
I think so.
That's
at least all 5 of those dragons. I'm not sure if there's been previous ones where everyone in on.
Okay, so did the deal follow through?
Okay, so this is the first time announcing this publicly. So there's the the TV deal that you go through, and then you go through due diligence with the dragons, right? So and the next day we sold a Bunky to Arlene. She loved the product and she was looking for a product as well. And so we went to her house and built her, and she's great. She's fantastic. And then we were negotiating with Wes Hall and his group. And so, we were relatively proactive. Like we gave them a couple days, and then after we filmed, which was May, we, here's our numbers. Here's kind of our little, first timer, what we think you might need to know. What else do you need to know, right? We're pretty proactive. And they were, I wouldn't say they were slow, but they weren't super fast at getting back to us. And so things just kind of we were meeting with them and we were giving numbers and stuff, but things kind of dragged on. And all throughout this time, we pitched because we wanted to put together our own manufacturing in-house, right? We wanted to have Bunky Life manufacturing. That was basically the whole pitch. I don't know if it got through that on the TV show as well as it.
So at the time you were doing your manufacturing in various different places, getting materials from everywhere.
We were outsourcing, we ordered some ready-made kits from Europe, and then we were making a bunch of hodgepodge. Like this wood shop would make this thing, and this wood shop would make one window, and it was just this plethora of wood flying around the province, sometimes even from Quebec, and it was just very hard to keep control and keep quality, the way we wanted, and keep consistency, and also just get enough product, right? So, we saw having gone through that whole pitch, we saw the benefit of having in-house manufacturing. So that was what our pitch was about, right? So
we had to the mic a bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we had to get our numbers together, right?
Yeah.
For this show, to not embarrass ourselves on TV. And we realized this is actually a pretty good investment. We should do this. So we just acted as if the deal was going through, right? Which we hoped it would. Ended up getting our mortgage for this factory. We bought the factory. We bought all the equipment. We just started doing it, right? So
That mortgage was based on you getting the deal with the Dragons?
no, not really.
Okay.
Our cash flow is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like our profit was good, and yeah, we qualified on our own basically.
Okay.
So we just kind of went through, got to the factory. So by the time they kind of got back to us, like, yeah, let's do this deal, we were kind of like, well, at this point, it's like it's a nice to have. It's not really a need to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then talks kind of broke down, and then they resumed again when the show aired because they were like, oh, we love you guys, and it wasn't. I wouldn't think there was any bad faith on either parties. It just didn't really like the deal didn't really gel, you know.
Do you think it was because all 5 people were involved? And it wasn't as streamlined as maybe just dealing with one person. Let's get it done.
It's possible, yeah. Like I feel like if it had just been us and Arlene, we probably would have done something.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know. I mean, like the reality is we're not in this like software business that's going to 100x tomorrow. We're in a pretty straightforward, physical product business. So the potential to just blow the top off of it isn't as high, and that's kind of what a VC wants.
That almost seems like the bread and butter of Dragon's Den a little bit is investing in entrepreneurs who have physical products, because you see all these gimmicky products sometimes, right? The better mousetrap.
Right.
And a lot of those times those products will get investments if there's like a real business behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said for building physical things. We're hoping that, if we go into a recession, that our product is still going to be like a physical thing that people need, right? That's kind of like we did better during the COVID recession than we expected.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess that was a time when people were renovating their homes. They were investing in kind of their nest, right? Building the nest.
Yep. And I think that, if let's say hypothetically something like that happens again, or there's just a downturn, like maybe you're not going to spend that $200,000 in renovation. Maybe you're just going to buy a Bunkie instead. So we might be that substitute. Good. So
to go back to the original product, what is the selling features of the Bunkie versus doing a home reno, adding an addition to your home? Why are people so interested in this product?
People get really excited when you say that you're not likely to have to deal with a building inspector. So we've tailored our product to be in Canada. Yeah. Like, so
that is exciting.
Picture you just want to add a bedroom to your house. I just want an extra bedroom, right? Like you're going to be in for $100,000 easily, right? If all the permits go through, it's going to be a lot of dust. It's going to be a lot of dealing with contractors and expenses and stuff. Whereas with a Bunkie kit, you can buy it. You and your friends can build it in a weekend. It could be like right now we have inventory, like just a little tiny bit we caught up. You could buy a Bunkie from us and like get a Bunkie this week and be done this weekend, and like be storing your grandkids in it if you want to, right?
Wow. So
that's a big plus. So the speed, and I think like aesthetically they look good. Some people like the idea of a separate bedroom, like it's separate.
Yeah.
You can go back there and not have to think about the rest of the house. Like if you're a dad with 4 kids like I am, it's nice to have a nap cabin or an escape to get something, right?
Is that what you use it for sometimes?
I'm not gonna lie. I've used it a few times. I'm going to work, everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm the Bunkie sleeping. So
designing the next project in here.
Yeah, exactly.
So how many different types of Bunkies do you have? Do these come complete with plumbing, with kitchen stuff? Like, what's it look like?
So we just sell the shells. So what you do with that is up to you.
Okay.
In Ontario and I think most of Canada, if you add plumbing, you've straight into permit required land generally, right? So generally we'll sell the shell. People can add electricity or all the bells and whistles they want. It's up to them. But in general, we are selling kind of 6 major SKUs. There's kind of 3 non-lofted Bunkies, just like a straight cabin. Then we sell two ones with a loft, and we just came up with a cat, and then we sell a little kind of utility shed basically, and that's more like an accompaniment to the other Bunkies. And Ontario just made a rule this past quarter where you can build a shed up to 160 square feet or 15 square meters, but it has to be for storage purposes only. So we've just put out that product. What you store is up to you, but we put out that product.
Could be storing tools, could be storing bodies.
Don't you dare say that. How dare you?
Yeah. Okay. These Bunkies, so they come as different parts. Just the lumber. I'm sure they come with instructions for putting them together.
Yep. Windows and doors, the locks, the keys, the screens, everything's kind of included. We manufacture it right here in Ontario.
Do you need a bunch of tools to set these up?
You need a couple ladders. You need a hammer. You need a drill. They're basic tools that most people or their father-in-law will have. Okay.
And what about laying a foundation for the Bunkie?
Because they're so small, most people can get by with just like some patio stones, gravel and patio stones. You can go more intense if you want.
So you just even the earth out.
Yeah.
Put the stones down.
Yeah, maybe a bit of gravel, then put deck blocks or patio stones. Yeah.
Okay. And to go back to when you first grew it, because now you've got momentum behind you, right? But you went from building your own to building some for friends or family to then running this contest. But it seems like you would have had to already have built a community before running that contest to then market it to. Like how did you go from friends and family to then getting your first few customers? Because that's always that's when you're like, you're a train and you're stuck, you're not moving, like getting that momentum.
You're talking about 0 to 1,
yes,
1 problem.
0 to 1.
Okay, so for us, it was just we have a cool looking product. Do you want to win this? And then people enter to win. Now during this, I think it was a 30-day promotional contest, basically. I was educating people what's so great about Bunky. So I was doing these live streams. People got to know me. They got to know our family.
Live streams on what platform?
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
There's a platform called Restream where you can simultaneously stream to multiple platforms.
And how did you get, like Facebook, sure, friends and family, but on YouTube, how are you building your audience there?
So they enter the contest, then they would subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. It's like they get into the central thing, and then they hit all the different platforms.
Where would they first find out about the contest?
I was sending cold traffic from Facebook to a landing page, and they were opting into the contest.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically the secret sauce there.
Now, what was your background before doing this?
So I ran a wedding entertainment company, and I was a professional musician. That was what I was employed doing.
Okay, because I was going to say you must have had some sort of business experience.
I ran a contest with my artist business where I gave away a house concert, and it was just a really cool. It was a cool thing. Like it was a house concert. I think we sold 10 house concerts as a result of giving one away. So it just made sense, right? So I just applied that to the Bunky concept, and it was night and day how different it was. Like building a wedding entertainment company was just kind of a very straightforward kind of slog, to be honest. Like it's a great business, but it's like
what does that involve? What's a wedding entertainment company?
So we played live music for weddings generally.
Okay, so you were in a band, and your niche was weddings.
Yeah, and it was just you know who your people are, you market to them. There's a lot of great opportunities to learn how to run a business, basically. Because before that, I was just like a pub guy that played pubs and just I was a hustler, but I wouldn't have a business. There's no structure.
I'm sure that was like a really cool lifestyle for a little bit though.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was really cool. So that was my 20s basically.
Was it? Yeah. How many times have you played Shout, the wedding song?
Too many times.
Yeah.
Good times. Yeah.
You can never hear that song enough times though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then the wedding thing to Bunky life to you guys, you run this contest, and that's the contest that kind of really blew you guys up.
Yeah. And it didn't blow up the first year. Just it did well. It did comparatively to say the house concert giveaway. It was like,
was this still a side hustle at this point?
Yeah. We didn't really go full time into it until year 3. I want to say 2 or 3.
Okay. And when you started, were you doing like going to people's cottages, building it from scratch? And then did you transition to would you call it prefabricated?
Yeah. There was like the first year I had the brilliant idea of build or buy a Bunky from us, get a free installation. The worst idea I've ever
It's not very scalable.
Everybody that wants a free installation usually lives on like an island up a hill, like through a bunch of bear traps. Like it was a nightmare. I killed myself that summer. So just slowly transition from us doing everything to, okay, we don't actually do installs, but here's 10 people you can call, or do it, like teaching people how to do it themselves, right? Because the cool thing about our products is no one's ever tried to build it and fail. We've had grandmas build the Bunkies with their kids. We've had a bunch of like older ladies together build their Bunky. They really are easy to build if you just kind of follow the instructions and go step by step. And you get that feeling of like, oh, like look at what we did. We built this Bunky, right?
So gratifying, building a physical thing.
If I could only focus on the people that just want to DIY, that would be amazing, because the people that want it done for them tend to be they don't appreciate the work that went into it as much, right? We do help people find contractors if they need to, but in general, I love the families and the kids helping and the little dogs running around, and like I love that's the essence of what we do. I really love the DIYers that get like that's not just about the Bunky itself; it's about the connection that you're gonna have building it. It's about the connection you're gonna have in it when it's there. It's gonna enable you to get together, and that's like the essence. We don't just want rich people that want like a cool thing in their backyard, Ideally, it's the people that like really understand and appreciate the meaningful connection aspect of the business.
Yeah, what a fun weekend just putting that together with friends or family. Mm-hmm. And you guys seem with your marketing to really lead with that purpose. Yeah. The greater purpose of why you're doing it. Like at the beginning, you had beautifully summarized it into that, 30-second thing of what you guys do. But really, Is that the purpose that you have behind this business to so people can build those meaningful connections?
Yeah, like for us, it created that little bit of breathing room on our personal finances because we were renting it out on Airbnb, and it created like an actual physical place to go to. So 2018, which was like kind of year one of Bunky life, family went through some hardships. We talked about it on the Dragon's Den pitch, but basically we had a bunch of recurrent miscarriages. Real time of like, what the F's going on? Grieving, like all this stuff. And the Bunky was like a cool thing that our parents could come and stay in, be close to us. And sometimes it'd just be like, watch our other kids so we could just like regroup, So the Bunky for us is like more than just a physical thing in our backyard. It's like it's a meaningful, like a respite, a spot of respite, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it really does come across that way. And whether you intended it to or not, have you ever read the book Start With Why?
Yeah. Simon Sinek.
Yeah, Simon Sinek's book.
Yeah. And
the premise of the book is like he draws out the circle almost like a bullseye, and in the middle is why, and then it's how, and then it's what. And a lot of people in their businesses, when they market, they just talk about the what. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I sell this Bunky. It's 10 by 10. This is how you build it. Whatever. The how is like, oh, we ship it to you. These are the shipping times. This is how much it costs. But then the why is like build those meaningful connections, spend more time with friends and family, have those options, earn some extra income, so you can take care of your family. And like, that's like the meat and potatoes. Like that's what really draws people in. You guys have built this really cool community, and I feel like it's a direct result of that. Like I was looking at your Facebook before the show, and you had done a party for your new factory.
Right. Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You said in that video you had 400 people there.
I think it was closer to 5 if you count like all of us staff and some drop-ins. Like we had 400 people sign up, but there was a lot of people in the neighborhood that just popped in too. So we were cooking burgers, and we got these like kind of 2 thick patties, and people are coming by, and then we realized like we're like so far behind on these burgers. We're like trying to mass these burgers. Yeah. So that was the only downside, was that we got behind on the burgers because more people came than we were anticipating. But it was an amazing time. Yeah.
So why are people kind of banding behind you guys in this message? I'm sure some of that was community support. You're saying, because you're in Aaron.
Yeah. The factory itself is in Rockwood, which is like 10 minutes from Aaron, kind of in between Acton and Georgetown, if you know where that is, but in GTA basically. Yeah.
So why are people kind of banding together like that? Is it that message?
Yeah.
Is it just a fun community that you've built?
Yeah, it is fun. Like people have fun, and there's something about to be said. Like we've really put our face in front of the business. People know Carrie and I's story. We were like really upfront with like all the losses we went through. So not a lot of people talk about miscarriage. It's kind of like a taboo subject, sort of. And so we were really public about it because it helped us find other people that had gone through the same experience. So it was kind of therapeutic for us personally to be able to share from it. And also we realized like, man, I wish more people had talked about this because it would be easier to go through if you know other people that have gone through it. So we made a deliberate decision to kind of share that. And that I think was the start of like, okay, these are real people. They have real, like we just share what we really do. And I think people connect with that a little bit. And then also, the product is just kind of sexy. Like you go on and you see the posts that do the best are not me talking. They're usually like just a photo of the Bunky. They look good.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Because people will set them up. They're all excited about this Bunky, and then they'll send you a photo.
Oh man, some of the things our clients do with their Bunkies are unreal. Like we have the public Facebook group that you've seen, right?
Yeah.
Then we have this private group. It's about 1,000 people. It's everyone who's bought a Bunky or their family and friends. So it's like kind of the private, just like for Bunky lifers. And the posts on there are even better. They're not always like aesthetically as awesome, but the ideas that people have and the just like this one girl has this Airbnb now. She's turned it into an Airbnb, and it's looks like it's something out of like Martha Stewart magazine. It looks amazing, right? So there's that dimension that people take what we've kind of the basic bare bones that we've provided, and they're riffing on it and creating things that we couldn't even have thought of. So a lot of our business is basically like customer created, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the content is customer photos, and a lot of the ideas we have are like, oh, the reason we recommend this product is like these 10 people loved it and they raved about it to us. So that's why we're now like, oh, consider this, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like these Bunkies are very customizable. You can stain them the way you want to stain them, obviously decorate the way you want to decorate, add additions, or plumbing is now in the territory of the inspectors and stuff. So maybe avoid some of that stuff.
Sometimes it happens, but
sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So Yeah, I feel like if I were to build one of these bunkies, I would be so excited about it. Obviously, it's a great time with friends and family building it. And then you want to show it off. And especially if there's this community where you can show it off and people are going to comment and be like, oh, that's so cool. And then you're going to see other people's ideas and gain inspiration from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that private Facebook group is the best thing like we ever did. We did it like I think a year ago. Like whenever I'm kind of bummed out, because in any business, there's like stuff that's kind of just tedious, like taxes and et cetera. All that stuff. I just go on the group and like, oh, there's people that are very happy that we're doing this, you know?
So it gives you guys some meaning behind what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it does for sure. Like we are helping people and we are making a meaningful difference in our greater community. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool, man. How much of building this community would you say has drove your business?
It's hard to estimate. I don't know. I don't know what other businesses are doing. Like this is our first kind of bigger scale business, but we've grown it to, 25 employees, our own factory, customers from coast to coast, clients from anywhere from Vancouver Island to all the way to Cape Breton. So, I think that, you can get a cheaper shed. You can buy like a crappy Canadian Tire shed. No offense to Canadian Tire. But
yeah, is that the competition? Right? Is there...
Yeah, there's like
it's a very unique kind of niche.
It is it's a cool niche. There's a company called the Bunkie Co that makes like really cool modern looking ones. They're made of metal and glass kind of, and I respect them. There's actually a lot of great companies that are kind of in that niche. Mm-hmm. They don't look exactly the same as us, and their price point's different, but there's a lot of options I think, and but there isn't a lot of people that I think have like really dug into the story element of like why do people do this, and I don't think there's people that have even thought about building community around it, to my knowledge, at least in Canada.
Where did you learn about marketing? You clearly are dialed in.
So I'm just a student. My mentors are like Jay Abraham and like old school guys like David Ogilvy. I read anyone from the 1920s to like 1990s and 2000s. I just like to read about marketing. I think it's interesting. I like Simon Sinek, like people that like have a take on it that isn't just about making money per se. I've always tried to think, where's the intersection between like what I love to do, what the world really needs, and like what's profitable. And I try to find that. And Bunkies was that for me. Like I was pretty successful as a musician, but I was never like a breakthrough success. And I realized it was more like, I like doing it and people like it, but it doesn't pay very well. That was like, didn't have the third trifecta music, I wouldn't say.
So what are the three? Say them again.
So think about a Venn diagram, right?
I've done this exercise before. It was 4 and I can't remember the components.
The fourth one.
It was called Ikigai.
Yeah.
It was Ikigai. It was like a Japanese word, I think.
Yeah.
Ikigai. And it was, sorry, go ahead.
What do I love to do? What does the world need? And what will people pay for?
Yes.
Those are the three things. But there probably is a fourth.
There's one more. And it's so cool. It's like this Venn diagram on steroids. It like circles out. There's like multiple circles. And you can even get all three intersecting. But the magic is right in the center, the fourth one. And it was like one of the most valuable exexercises I've ever done. Yeah, and now I'm bugging myself that there is a fourth one, but those are the three things that I'm currently on the mental level of being able to accept. But what would the fourth one be? I'll have to Google that later. Yeah, we can search it up or something later. That's cool. But so did you actually go through that exercise and land on Bunky Life? Were you already doing it and you were like, hey, this is kind of hitting everything, or this part of the business is what I want to focus on because it hits on everything? Yeah, there's lots of dimensions we could have went with it. It was a bit of an evolution. We kind of fell into it in the sense that it scratched our own itch. It solved our problem, like as a family. And then I thought it could solve other people's problems. And then it's just evolved. So when we make decisions, we try to think, okay, is this decision going to grow the business in a way that's going to be more helpful to the world, more profitable for ourselves, and we're going to love doing, right? And so that's the filter we filter our future decisions against, if that makes sense. And if something only hits one of the dimensions, it's a no for sure, hard no. If it's like 2 out of 3, but maybe it'll like starting a factory, I wouldn't recommend it. My worst enemies. It was like a nerve-wracking, stressful thing, but we had to get through starting a factory to have a factory that could actually employ Canadians and make bunkies in Canada. So starting a factory sucked, but having a factory is fun. Does that make sense? Right? Yeah. Kind of going through the fire to get there. Mm-hmm. You have 4 children now, correct? Yep. Evie is 8. No, sorry. Evie just turned 9. Hope's about to turn 6. Declan, who's a girl, she is turning 3 in January. And then I just had a son, Owen, in April. Wow. Congrats, man. Yeah. Thanks. Especially after everything you've been through. Like, that's awesome. We kind of solved that whole miscarriage. Well, we think we solved the miscarriage issue,
But
Okay.
that's a long story. So
That's another podcast.
mm-hmm.
The 4 children. How do you balance the 4 children with the Bunky life? It seems like it's been explosive growth. Like what you were talking about on Dragon's Den. I think we could probably link to that video.
Sure.
Maybe in the show notes, people can watch it. It was like an 8-minute pitch. Really good, like really well done pitch, right? Sometimes you see those pitches and you kind of cringe a bit, right? Because they weren't prepared.
Yeah.
And it's like, or they're so uncomfortable up there that you're like, like it makes you uncomfortable. You guys were awesome. It was a fun little clip.
Yeah, they edited us really well. I felt like it was a good edit, and yeah, we knew our numbers really well. We went in there, we had them cold, and we had pitched to like 10 of our friends and different business associates. We had like I had a speaking coach help us out for like a couple sessions. We went hard on it because it's national TV. It's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'd rather not be embarrassed in front of all of Canada.
See, yeah, it's interesting because when I watch the video and I see you on the thing, you just seem like an outgoing guy who's comfortable in front of the microphone, comfortable in front of the camera. And I was like, well, he's a professional musician. You know, of course he was.
Yeah.
But it's now to see the preparation behind that still, it's cool to see because it's worked. It's translated.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that we went as hard as we possibly could on that pitch and left nothing on the field. And I had like a personal chef hired that week.
Yeah.
Before the show aired, because we're like, I don't want to miss any opportunity here. So I would never hire a personal chef again, probably. But that particular week, I'm like, we just got to not even have to think about meals. Let's just.
No, why wouldn't you hire them again?
It's a lot of money, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like cooking
that's the reason I don't have one.
Yeah. I like cooking my own food anyways. Like I enjoy that. So
yeah. Okay, so then back to balancing the 4 kids with Bunky life, because you've had this explosive business growth. It's amazing, but you built a damn factory. Like this must have taken a toll.
We were in Florida the entire time the factory was starting up, actually. So we purposely went away. We hired the right people. We got proper consultants, proper people that have done all this stuff. So anything that we were doing, we'd hired someone that had been there and done that, and that helped a lot. And we weren't there, so we got back in July, and I feel like it's so easy to get sucked into little details in a business like that. Whereas when we were away, I think we actually got more like the business got more done, if that makes sense. We were still kind of overseeing things and we're chatting with people every day, but we weren't physically there. So when I got home, I'm like, next thing you know, I'm like sweeping the floors and like just I'm getting involved in the business. Whereas the first 6 months of the factory opening, we weren't even there. We went from 0 bunkies a day in March to 4 bunkies a day by July. It was just an incredible turnaround, scale up, whatever you want to call it. You know, we went from like 0 to 1 that we did back with selling bunkies. We did that with the factory too. It was so cool to see. And the cool thing is, because I wasn't there, I can give those guys all the credit. They did it all, right? I really didn't do anything. So for us, it was about getting the right people in the right places and letting them do their job properly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were able to take that much of a break,
well, it wasn't a break. I mean, I was still selling bunkies and I was working every day.
So taking in orders and stuff.
Yeah. Making sure there's enough orders to make the factory make sense.
Okay. So what's building a factory like? Like how big is the space? What machinery did you need in there?
14,000 square feet. It is, it's big. It's a deal. And there's some machines that cost more than my first house in there.
Wow.
Yeah. Some custom machines that are like, cause there's some things that are make our bunkies unique that are like, just gotta fork over the money and get the special machine that makes it really work. So
yeah. I heard you mention, I think it was on Darren's podcast, that you had sunk your life savings into building this factory.
Yeah.
So you were reinvesting into the business every year.
Yeah. We take a salary now. And we took a salary last year too. So we still did an okay salary, but yeah, we haven't taken out profit, if that makes sense, in a meaningful way yet. We just reinvested it all.
It's clearly working.
Yeah.
What made you confident enough to make such a big move like that? Was it just you knew you had the business model down, you knew the process to get a customer, it was repeatable, you had the system?
That on that end, and then also on the production, and because we had been, every part of the supply chain, we had been someone who imports kits from another country. We had made our own kind of hodgepodge, and we'd seen the pluses and minuses of all the above, and we knew our numbers really well. We knew how much it's going to cost to make, so we could project like, okay, if we have our own factory and we're doing this, it's going to make sense. Basically, we just knew our numbers really well. So let's say, and the thing about a factory is we can make it, we can proudly say it's Canadian made, and we can make it to a higher quality standard. Like we saw like, oh man, a lot of the stuff that we're importing is kind of like, I don't want to say like make it as cheap as you can, but there's some trade-offs there that they were making. And I thought, well, we could improve it and bring it cost down. Like that's a double win. Plus we have our own supply chain. Like the last couple of years, everyone's whining about supply chains, which I totally get. And we have none of that stress now.
It's all in-house.
Yeah. All we have to buy is wood and glass, and that you can get that down the street generally.
Has battling the inflation from lumber and stuff been a struggle in the past 2 years?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but we hedge that with different strategies. Like we'll take a deposit from clients. We try to buy the wood right away so that we're not taking the risk of lumber appreciating a lot too hard, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You're a student of marketing, clearly. I'm sure you've studied your other business capabilities, the economy, it seems like, inflation and stuff. What's some of that other education that you've gone through for yourself to be able to run this business?
Well, so I went to school for physics and math. So nothing related to business at all. But I've always run businesses like since I was like young. So
I guess even as a musician, you were marketing yourself.
I went to the school of hard knocks. That's what I tell everybody I went to. Yeah, that was kind of I learned how to hustle in the personal music business. Then I learned how to build systems in the wedding business, and now I'm learning like how to scale a company, if that makes sense. And they're all like the staircase stepping stone to the next step, I guess.
When you say learned how to hustle, what do you mean?
Pick up the phone. Like in the pub business, it was all about picking up the phone and reaching out to pubs. That was like 90% of what I did. You know, the playing is like 10% of it, but it was just push marketing to restaurant owners and pub owners and universities and stuff.
How quickly did you figure that out after being like, hey, I want to play some music and do shows and pubs and travel?
I met my very first manager was like an old school guy from the 60s, and he explained what the first step of the music business is. I never had anyone articulate that well. He articulated that, and I got up to like $1,000 a week within, I don't know, 2-3 months. I don't know if that's even possible now. I have not in the business of pub playing anymore, but back then I was one of a small handful of people that did that. But you had to craft what you did for the marketplace, not the other way around. A lot of musicians are like, they don't want to, they want to do what they want to do. Right. Mm-hmm. And they want to like completely, like they want the market to kind of form around what they're already doing. And that works for like the incredibly talented and the incredibly like lucky. But for me, I just like crafted what I did for what the audiences needed, if that makes sense, or craft what the restaurants needed. So it was like, I was a good musician. I was good at singing, but I would go around and shake everyone's hands before I played. I would go and shake everyone's hands in between sets. I was a schmoozer, professional schmoozer, right? And that's how they used to do it back in the 60s and 70s. You were like a supplement to a restaurant or a pub, and you'd go around and be kind of like the hype man for the business for that evening, right? And so I just took on that role, and I was really good at it. And I've shook probably hundreds of thousands of people's hands over the course of my career, right? Because I played 2,000 shows, so I got to like that benefit of interacting with people in person, and like you instantly know if someone likes you or if they hate you. You can like this guy's, his girlfriend is like not interested, but like his girlfriend's like kind of watching the show and he's a bit jealous. You can like instantly get all this like this like subtext when you do it 1,000 times, right? So that was like this weird, almost human education that I went through too for about 10 years of playing pubs. Human
psychology and stuff. Yeah. And then also a lot of people are drunk.
Yeah. You get to see people, like some people are great people when they're hammered. Some people are terrible people. And they're almost like an unfiltered version of what they already are.
Yeah. I was about to say, it's like, to your point about a lesson in humans. Yeah. Like you're dealing with people when it's like their lizard brain.
Yeah, totally.
It's the only thing operating.
That is so true. It is a lizard brain. Yeah.
Wow. Knowing what you know now, with Bunky Life, building a community and stuff, if you went back to being a musician, do you think you could take some of that carry over? Like, is there anything you'd do differently?
Yeah, I would systemize my marketing better, right? It was very manual. Like I said, it was very push.
Shaking hands, walking around.
Yeah. But that's all I had. I had hands. I didn't have much else going for me. I was 22. Yeah. So yeah, I would probably try to systemize things a bit better, and I would definitely try to make it more. There's things you can do in marketing that bring, like, draw the customer in, like magnetically attract the customer, as opposed to trying to push yourself onto the customer. And so the more you can give people the impression that they're being attracted to you, the better the marketing, really, right?
Can you give us an example of that?
So you could scream at someone, "I'm the best," right? But that's not very effective. The better thing is to communicate a message that makes them come to the conclusion on their own that you're the best. And that's pretty esoteric itself.
I understand.
Right. So a good example, this is like a J. Abraham example. Back in the 30s, I want to say there's like 5 beer companies, and Slit was at the bottom, whatever their name was, right? They're like the kind of crappy beer, right? And so everyone in the marketing was going, premium, we're the premium beer. Like everyone's just screaming the word premium at the marketplace, right? And so David Ogilvy, I believe, came in and said, like, let's talk about your process, right? And so they communicated to him what the process was, and they're filtering this thing, and they're hand selecting the water from Belgian monks or whatever they're doing, right? They're doing like all this intense stuff, right? And so David Ogilvy was, okay, we're gonna explain that. We're gonna explain all the process. We're gonna put that in a large info, like a long scale, like communication of like what you guys do. And they're like, well, but the thing is, everyone does that, right? Everyone, all 5 of us do that. And what he said was like, yeah, but no one knows that, right? The average guy drinking beer has no idea what you guys do to make it awesome, right? So they went and they communicated it, and they went from 5 to number 1, like that year.
What company was that?
Schlitz beer, I want to say.
Oh, sorry, you said Schlitz. Yeah,
Schlitz. I'm not saying it right, but yeah, that's the story. And there's the lesson of that is like, if you're gonna want someone to understand something, you can't just like scream it at them. You got to kind of show them, right? And that goes a lot farther than just like everyone slaps the word premium on their crappy product. Like what does premium mean? So that's what we try to communicate. Like our marketing is all about education. It's like why would you choose a Bunkie, and then what's great about a Bunkie, and let's actually show you. And then better yet, let's let someone else who already owns a Bunkie show you, not me, because I'm the guy selling you a Bunkie. You want to know from the guy that has no interest in explaining why it's great.
So now you're using social proof from your customers who've already bought it. So are you interviewing them, doing videos with them?
Yeah, every week we have a post from a client with their sexy, you probably saw this on their Facebook page, sexy photo of their Bunkie, their story, why they got a Bunkie, like the whole story, right? We try to communicate that at least once a week.
Wow. And it's genuine that way.
Yeah. Like a really cool story about a month ago, someone's father had passed away and always wanted to have a Bunkie on their little kind of cottage island area. So they bought this Bunkie from us. They brought it over there. They built it all together, and they like commemorated it in like his honor, right? And that's so they can always go to that Bunkie and remember Dad. It's a tangible thing that demonstrates like a really meaningful person in their life, right? And those are the stories those are like the real reasons people buy things, is like those emotional reasons, you know? And if you can like figure out what that is and help them get there, that means a lot to people.
How did they get the wood and everything over? Was it just on a boat?
Yeah, a lot of people buy our product specifically because like you can pack it down. You can take it individual pieces across in like a little fishing boat if you need to.
Oh, they're taking like a few 2x4s at a time kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the worst case scenario, but we can get really easily our product to an island or a peninsula or something if you need to.
Can people rent like a little pontoon boat or like a small barge almost?
A lot of like lakes up in Muskoka and cottage country have little pontoons you can rent or barges you can rent.
Oh, it makes sense if so many people are on the island or whatever.
Yeah.
Your point about the beer is interesting because I had Coors Light. Have you ever heard on the commercials they say cold filtered?
Right.
Triple cold filtered.
Right.
Apparently every beer is triple cold filtered.
But now if like, you know, I don't know, I don't drink a lot of beer. Molson comes out and goes, we're triple cold filtered. They just look like douchebag copycats, right?
Yeah. You've stolen the Coors Light thing. But it's like, no, Coors is the original triple cold filtered.
Exactly.
Even though everyone was maybe doing it for 50, 100 years.
Totally.
I don't really know. But another point on that, what was I going to say? I'd forgotten. But so the personality-based marketing is another aspect of your marketing.
Yeah.
Your personality is huge. You're kind of the face of the brand.
Right.
So did that come from studying marketing as well? Did you just stumble into that because you started this thing and you're like, I need to get the message out there. I'm schmoozing the kind of world at this point, just virtually over, live streams and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's all I had. It was like, all I've got is my face. I don't have like $1 million or even $1,000 behind me. I had my face. So, and I really think they're great products. Like I sell a product that I personally use, that I personally believe in. So there's no like inconsistency there. Like I can get up in front of the Bunkie and be like, this is legit awesome. And it's not that much money compared to what you get. So that was all I had the first year. Right. And then we've incorporated, since we have customers now, we incorporated their stories in. So it's less about just me, but it's about, the greater story. And
that's what I was going to say. Here at Rockstar, we run the Rockstar Inner Circle membership. We've got
tons of Rockstar members buying, investment properties all over, the greater Golden Horseshoe area here in Southern Ontario, and just so many interesting stories of people living life on their terms.
Yeah.
And they're happy to share it because it's this amazing, beautiful accomplishment. People building up a portfolio and then buying vacation homes in the Caribbean or in Europe, or a cottage for themselves, or retiring their wife or their husband. And so we have like members of the month here at Rockstar, and they share their stories. And not only is it a great way for people to kind of expose themselves and share, but it's just inspiring for all the other people seeing it who get motivated by those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important, because I think as more and more options of like people marketing to you exist, right? There's TV, there's radio, now there's like, you can drop ads right into your cell phone. You're more credulous against like these claims of we're the best, right? And so you're going to be more likely, I think, as time progresses, to be, reaching out to your friends, family, and like, who do you recommend? Who do you trust, right? And those legitimate, like, actual human beings recommending you guys, or the member of the month, goes so much farther than it might have like 10 years ago, right? When it was mass media. It's a more individualized, like, recommendations now, I think, are way more important. And I think they're going to be increasingly more important, right? So that's why, like, the customer experience has to be amazing, or at least has to be like really good.
What's your advice to people who want to start a business? You've now started 3 businesses: the pubs, the weddings, and now...
Those are the ones that like saw the light of day. There's been like 18 other ideas that probably failed.
Have there?
Yeah. If you go to my GoDaddy account, it's like the graveyard of dead business ideas.
Oh, just domains littered.
Yeah.
I've got a few of those too, actually.
Yeah.
So what's your advice? Like, the Bunky thing you kind of stumbled into. The musician thing, you probably wanted to do it from a young age. And then I guess from there probably stumbled into the wedding thing. Is it just your eyes were open? You knew you didn't want maybe the traditional path of getting a corporate job or something. You were looking for opportunities, and then when they fell across your lap, you were able to jump on it?
Yeah. I mean, what's that one saying that, like, opportunities when like preparation, or I guess success is when preparation and opportunity collide. Like, I was driving to my pub gigs and I was listening to podcasts like this podcast, like, marketing, like Jay Abraham stuff. Like I was reading stuff and filling my mind with as much knowledge and as much kind of tactics and strategies I could, so that when the next thing that made sense came, I was ready for it. So it wasn't like people say, oh, did Bunky life fall in your laps? Like, not really. Like, anyone could have just kind of like built a Bunky and rented it out on Airbnb, but never thought beyond that. Like, I saw like the next couple steps ahead because I was like thinking that way and learning that way. So it's about, for myself, it's an ongoing education. I'm never done educating myself. I always want to grow and I always want to learn more. And I just generally find this stuff interesting. Like last year we could have, so after the Dragon's Den thing, we could have cashed out, sold the business, or even just like slowed it down and like been millionaires, like multimillionaires. But we went and did the factory because like legitimately, I think it's going to be fun. I thought it would be fun to build the factory, and it was and wasn't at the same time. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was like the next step of learning. So even if I do go broke building this factory, like, it'll be worth it for the experience that I got out of it, if that makes sense.
How would you have stepped back, just logistically speaking, and kept running that business? Just, hey, this is functioning, I can take a step back and just work on it way less and it'll still produce cash flow?
I probably could have, or just like we had made enough money that year that like we could have just pulled the profits and be like, see, everybody, that would have been terrible to do our employees though. But, we had those opportunities. Like, there was, prior to getting involved in a factory, we had no real like overhead other than some staff members. We didn't have a physical building. Like, it was a really like low overhead business, which we sacrificed. We didn't sacrifice that, but we made the deliberate decision to let's take this risk and let's if we're going to sell to Canadians, we're going to push the product, and we're going to let's do it all in Canada.
Are you just selling to Canadians now?
We just started actually to marketing to Michigan, like, as of Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're going to dip our toe in the North American waters.
Yeah. So Michigan, because cottage country, similar.
Yeah. I think it's probably like the similarest to Ontario, probably, or to Canada.
Yeah. We're like here in Southern Ontario, we're like, if you look on a map, we're like halfway through the States.
Yeah.
Like Michigan is actually,
Windsor
large
is
portion.
south of Detroit.
Is it really? Yeah. So like, yeah, you don't think about that, but we're so like just in this little pocket down here. Like, I was just up in Winnipeg and I was like, oh, this is Canada.
Yeah.
This is what Canada's like.
People are nice here.
Yeah, people are nice, and it's just sparse.
Yeah.
And just forest and lakes, and obviously just a small part of Canada. But
Yeah.
well, not really a small part. Ontario's massive. Like the drive up to Winnipeg is the same drive from here to Orlando.
You can get to Florida faster than you can get to Thunder Bay, I think, if you're driving.
Yeah, to the northern part of Florida, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ontario's massive. 3 Texases can fit inside Ontario.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive.
I think the way that you look at the globe, they like on the map, they like purposely emphasize southern, like middle, like they make the stuff in the equator shrink and the stuff in the north. It's just the way the globe works. So you grow up in Canada thinking we're smaller than we are. We're huge. We have so much land.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
So then Michigan, you're still doing everything here, but now you're shipping down across the border and stuff.
Yeah, we just sold our first Bunky to a New Yorker. Yeah, so that he's coming to pick it up next week.
It's crazy because on the outside, people see you as the face of the business. You're doing the live streams, the videos, the Instagram, the podcast, the Dragon's Den. But this must be a logistical nightmare. Now you're cross-border shipping. You've got a factory. You're dealing with shipping to cottages and stuff.
Yeah,
you're delivering to specific addresses.
Yep.
And if that address is an island in cottage country,
we'll usually take it as far as the barge or the dock.
To the dock.
It's up to you from there.
Yeah. So do you have an in-house delivery team as well?
So we've partnered with a couple great companies in Ontario that do most of our Ontario deliveries, and then out of province we've got some kind of hubs and different setups that work pretty well. And there's some hiccups along the way. The only downside about our product, it's so like, everything's pre-cut, everything's measured. There's not a lot of like craftsmanship skills. You just kind of need to put it together like an IKEA project. But if a piece gets wrecked, everything's interdependent. So if a forklift like bangs the back of the package, it can be really annoying if you're in BC and we're trying to get you your piece like quickly, right?
Dang.
So and they're really long. Some 16 foot long pieces. So we're because we have our own factory. That's another like big plus because we can just make it and send it the next day. That's a huge thing too. So I mean, there's logistical problems with not problems, but challenges, I should say. But we're solving them, and because we're not. Another upside of not growing too fast is we can solve them like in a linear way. We're not trying to scale up and like do all of North America tomorrow. We're just going to do one state and then see how that goes, and ideally build slow to move fast. If that makes sense.
Okay. An interesting thing you mentioned right before we went on air was that your children are homeschooled,
right?
Mainly by your wife, Carrie.
Yeah.
So why that decision, and what is that like?
Well, because we're entrepreneurs, we can be home, right? We have the option of being home. And I was homeschooled as a kid myself until grade 9. And I just like the idea of like, we have our set of values. We want to transfer that to our kids. And we can be a little more deliberate about that when they're homeschooled. And also, I mean, my experience of like starting in high school, I started at public high school and I was like, this is really slow moving. I went from like, I could bang out all my school usually by about 12 o'clock and I played road hockey the rest of the day. And I would be in geography class in high school being like, why are we writing a note down? Like I'm copying a note the entire class, and just being like, this is really slow. And then by the end of high school, I had slowed down with the rest of the pack. But you can honestly get most of your school done if you work hard in about an hour and a half, right? Unless you're like,
especially those morning hours where you can get 5 times more done in the same hour as an afternoon hour.
Totally. Right. And you're not like going back and forth to the 3, like, you're 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 with your mom.
Now, the stigma behind homeschooling, which I'm sure you might have gone through when you went into grade 9.
What about socialization?
Yes. So what was that like when you got into high school? And especially high school, it's so cliquey. And by then, people have formed friend groups.
Yeah. So I started halfway through grade 9 because
better.
The first half was me.
And you're the homeschool kid.
Yeah. So that was rough. That first half sucked. I ate every lunch in the library by myself in grade 9. But by the end of high school, I was the student club prime minister. I was involved in like tons of sports and stuff and clubs. And
that seems to be a recurring theme with homeschool kids is they crush it. All these life skills that they have.
Well, so there's probably 2 factors. That one is, yes, they have the right set, like scholastically, they're usually well far ahead. Like, I mean, there's almost no measured metric that you can't say they're not crushing like the average public school education. But the other factor is like, they're a group of people that are probably raised by entrepreneurs and other people that can afford to homeschool or afford to homeschool. So it's a little bit of a self-selected group, right? It's not fully fair to say that. But for the right kid, for me, it worked. For my brother had dyslexia a little bit. It worked for him really well. He didn't really get labeled, and like, there's a lot of downsides of dyslexia. There's a lot of upsides too. but he was able to kind of learn how to read at his own pace a little bit later than the average kid. He's super successful now. So all my brothers, we were homeschooled at different levels, but it's not right for every kid, but for our family right now it works. And probably, we might put one of our kids in like homeschool or like a kind of school for one day a week. There's kind of those kind of hybrid models emerging now.
Oh, okay.
So there's one we're looking at sending our oldest to for one day, and
What's the purpose of that?
It's like the one we're looking at is a classical education. So you learn some of the old Greek philosophers and stuff like that. You learn a little bit of Latin, a lot of things that we're not able to really like. We're just doing math, reading, standard, things she's going to need in life. But that like nice filler and the social aspect, because my oldest is very competitive, and I think she would benefit from other kids that are like her a little bit, but there's a little bit of a competitive social aspect. I think she'll benefit from that.
Yeah, and they're all playing sports. You mentioned like 19 sports and activities that they're all taking part of. That you're
just on one day. Wednesday we just completely get our sports out of our system, and then yeah. So I played a lot of sports as a kid too.
Yeah, so then there's the socialization aspect like massively there, right? Being on a team and stuff, and yeah. Just before we end, I wanted to ask you about your investing strategy, like personally. Like you're an entrepreneur, you've invested in yourself, becoming a hustler, then learning how to scale this and the marketing and everything. And that's where like 100% of your control is always in your business.
Yeah.
And you're reinvesting all the money into your business.
Yep.
So that's probably your biggest investment.
Well, I wouldn't say all my money, but yeah, a good, like the vast majority, when I was not broke, but when I was like, making not a lot of money, I still put a lot, like 10%, 20%, which was like a big chunk of our disposable income into like education. And like I took classes and just read as much as I could and learn as much as I could. So I was always investing in that type of thing. And I still am.
Okay. And now you're also involved with Bitcoin.
Yeah. So our company took on a Bitcoin as a treasury reserve strategy in 2020, I want to say. So we hold some of our liquid assets into Bitcoin.
On the balance sheet.
That's been useful. We borrow against it sometimes when we need cash. I sold some of it here and there, but in general, we have just like a buy and hold, very like lazy, very simple strategy with Bitcoin, because I do think that, over the long term, that it's very useful to have something outside of the system where like as the Great British Pound just went, you can lose 10% in like a course of a month. Whereas Bitcoin, I think like it's always going to be one Bitcoin is always going to be one Bitcoin. So I think that the implications of that haven't fully fleshed out. I think that we're like still in that period of time where it's like the cell phone was probably in like 1995. It's like, who knows what's going to happen with it. Mm-hmm. But I do think like the way you look at the world and the fact that you can have money that nobody has to trust. There's no trust in anybody else. You can just like, I could interact with someone even if I don't agree with them. If I don't trust them, I can interact. And that's like the invention of, modern day aqueduct. It's like a revolutionary invention that we haven't fully like appreciated how it's going to change things,
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of volatility, like we were talking about too, with like the Canadian dollar price of Bitcoin. I don't worry about that at all. I just think it's like something that we wanted to slowly take a position with, and it's a world I think that's going to be better world when we don't have to like, it's money that no one else can F with, if that's like the most like simple way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I like that dimension of it. I think it's going to be better for everybody, even the people who are currently effing with the money. I think it's going to be better for them too.
Yeah, everybody. There's so many downstream positive effects from a sound money system.
Yeah, because like there's a lot of people that like think there's this conspiracy of evil people trying to like manipulate everything. I think it's just like you inherited a system from your dad, and it's like a cycle of abuse or a cycle of whatever. You inherit it from your dad, who inherited it from his dad, and we're just like downstream from 100 years of just kind of looking back on it, ridiculous monetary practices, but it's just what my dad did,
Yeah.
So
no, the environment that you grow up in the system dictates exactly how you operate and survive in that system. Like if you're born in a rough neighborhood and you have to do rough things to get by in life, that's like just your survival mode kicking in, right? But if you grow in like a beautiful, positive community, maybe like in Oakville where it's just safe and stuff, it's like, well, you have a different operating system to kind of get ahead.
Yeah. And like something like a new technology advance comes along, right? And it just makes more things new things possible, right? Like we used to kill each other over the like fact that you were Catholic and I was Protestant, or you were this and I was that, and certain technologies came and they made it so, like we had the idea of like, let's separate church and state. It was like a revolutionary technology kind of, right? We all adopted it, and we can peacefully get along, and nobody really cares about that anymore, right? For the most part. And I think that Bitcoin's going to do that with money. It's going to make it more neutral. It's not
separate money and state. I
think it's an idea that's worth exploring, right? Because everybody can agree that there's bad things happening. The other team is doing bad things. We can all agree on that. You know, if I'm blue team, then red team's bad, or green team, or purple team, or whatever. But like, wouldn't it be good if there wasn't as much power that if there wasn't this huge gun in the room we're all trying to grab and use against each other? If it was just like, oh, money is just this neutral thing that like you just don't have to worry about, and you don't have to trust everybody is not going to F with it. Yeah, you know, and that's what there's a huge technical rabbit hole to go down with Bitcoin that I've gone down, but that's like the conclusion I've come to, right? That no one can change it. It's not going to get F'd with by people that just can't help themselves from effing with it. If you have the option of like spending money with a credit card and somebody else paid the bill, it'd be very hard not to spend that money, right? Even like the first month of having this like unlimited credit card, you'd be like, well, I'm only going to spend it on good things, right? But by like month 13, you'd be like boats and blow and hookers. Like you would, right? Right? And there's just no way around that. Even as the best person gets a hold of this unlimited credit card that someone else pays the bill for, they're going to use it for stupid things. It's just,
we can all be corrupted. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah. Right? That's the saying.
And the solution is like, if only the good guy had a control of the unlimited credit card. It's like, no, like there shouldn't be an unlimited credit card that you can spend where other people pay the bill.
Yeah. You're not inherently born as good or bad. You're just, life throws things your way. And then beyond just the positive moral effects of Bitcoin, like a hyper Bitcoinization world, you have it on your balance sheet. I think that's just a positive business move because it's the best performing asset in the past decade. And if you just keep all your money in cash, it's guaranteed 100% going to go to zero given enough time. Yeah. Whereas if you keep a little bit in Bitcoin, well, it's done pretty well. You know, at least you have a chance of some of your balance sheet maintaining its purchasing power and going up over time. Yeah. So
yeah, that's other than bunkies. That's like the thing I'm most interested in just learning about. It's like this rabbit hole that you can just go deeply, deeply down. And I find the more people go down that rabbit hole, the more like excited they are. It really comes across as like this get rich quick scheme when you're just like initially like looking at it. You're like, it seems like a Ponzi scheme, right? Which I totally get, and I can appreciate that. And that's the way I feel about anything other than Bitcoin, by the way. Yep. I think that anything beyond Bitcoin is like trying to copy fire. It's like we already have fire. We don't need to reinvent fire. We've got fire. Let's just go forward and let's learn how to do things with fire. But yeah, it's going to change things. It's already changing. It's changed me. It's changed our business because we can go into situations where like, okay, is this Dragon's Den deal going through or not, guys? I don't know, but we have the financial basis to do it ourselves. That made the difference. We probably wouldn't have done the factory if we didn't have this like rock solid financial basis to do it from.
Yeah, well, it is interesting how it can change you morally as a person too, because you start thinking for the long term. Yeah. You start making decisions for the long term as opposed to the fiat system short-term thinking, right? You get money, the money devalues quickly, spend that damn money before it devalues, right? And COVID, it's, that speed has, quickened, at least in the Western world. There's all sorts of other countries where that's been a problem, but.
Yeah, you look at what happened. So I read this book, When Money Dies. Have you read this book yet? No. It's a great book. It's written about the 1930s Germany, so pre-war Germany, pre-World War II Germany, right? At this point, the money supply was going right, just like exponential.
This is the Weimar hyperinflation.
Yes, and what I love about the book is it goes through almost chronologically, like what was happening, and then what were like the talking heads of the day saying in the papers and on the news and stuff, right? God. And it's like,
where are we at? Right. What are we hearing now? What stage are we at?
It's just you got to read the book, and you can map a lot of it onto. Like, there's times when it was like you can't get anything. Like everything's you can't. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't buy anything. Right. And that was like last year, right, or 2 years ago. Then it was like everybody's got all this stuff for sale, and there's no money. Right. Because it wasn't like we look at it as like, oh, just money went nuts. Like money went just, but it was actually like there were a lot of jumps up and down in between that. And so if you were levering yourself up or you were speculating, you could get wrecked either way if you're long or short on this money devaluation. I think we're on that same path, right? And it's just a great book because like all the same stupid arguments that everyone's making, right? Like were made back then. People legit thought that like even though it's inflated 1,000%, like the the Deutschmark's coming back, guys. Like this is it, right? It's going to suddenly get back to like gold parity. Like it went from like this is approximate, but like, one gold mark was like worth 1 ounce of gold or whatever to like 10,000. It was like that exponentially bad over the course of like, I think it took a decade.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask you about one more thing before we wrap, and it's high cash value life insurance. That's kind of the opposite.
Right, that's how we got together.
Yeah, yeah. So the high cash value life insurance, how are you using that in your business and your balance sheet?
So we also invest in so basically I take a life insurance policy on me, which is good because if I die, I am a bit of the face of the company. That would be bad for the company and bad for my wife and everybody. So if I die, all our debts are paid off. That's kind of like where we structured it, right? All our debts, and everyone would be fine. So it protects me on the life insurance side. And then it accrues a cash value that I can borrow against. So if I need money for something, I can borrow against it. When I die, it'll be tax-free money. And it compounds every year, like a certain percentage, which is roughly what it costs for me to borrow against it too. But it keeps compounding. So the power of compounding interest is never interrupted. If you borrow against it, you can just pay it back. And
the money inside the policy is still compounding, uninterrupted until the day you die.
Exactly. And so it's a very interesting way of doing it. It's for me, it's the other side. So Bitcoin is like the hyperinflation scenario, which could happen. And then there's also the deflationary scenario where money's worth more and now you need money. And then I have access to money through that policy.
And maybe a more conservative, accessible form, like asset or form of money on your balance sheet.
Yeah, because in general, life insurance policies don't fluctuate with the market. If you take a big downturn in the market, your life insurance policy keeps growing.
The cash value is still going up.
Yeah.
And so it's a more of a conservative approach.
Yeah. So those are like two extremes of the barbell.
Yep.
That I don't really like middle of the road investments anymore. I used to have real estate and I sold it all and now I just rent out bunkies if I want to for my cash flow.
That's your cash flow producing thing.
Although I do.
And you do have a cash flowing business that is growing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Where we love real estate because you can buy an income property. It's like a business in a box.
It is. Absolutely. And I had a bunch of real estate. Like I had a duplex and a single home in Windsor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I had that and I sold it all and built a bunch of bunkies and rent those out.
Yeah. Amazing, man. Dude.
Yeah.
What a cool story. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for taking the time, and just wish you nothing but the best. And where can people learn more about Bunky Life?
If you want to check out Bunky Life, it's BUNKIE life, LIFE.com. You can get in our little rabbit hole. We're actually giving a bunkie away right now. If you catch this before the end of October 2022, we're giving away a bunkie right now and you can enter to win. If you're in Michigan or Ontario.
And that's on your website?
Yep.
Okay, and you have this beautiful book we should probably mention.
Oh, sure.
You have a PDF copy, which I was looking at, but you have this gorgeous printed book as well, and the photos are like Instagram worthy in there, man.
This is kind of along those lines. We're talking about building the community and stuff. So this is like a photographer went out and met all our clients, I think in 2020, took photos of everybody's stuff. And so I wrote the story of our family, kind of, everything we talked about in the podcast. And there's photos of like sexy bunkies and it's kind of our stories woven in there, I should say. And also just like, tips about permits and tips about solar panels and power, like all the things I've learned is kind of like embedded in this book. It's modeled in this book called Cabin Porn that a lot of our clients were already buying. And I was like, let's make the bunkie version of that, but it's a little more personal because our story's in there too.
Yeah. Cool. And with some extra tidbits and stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. Eh?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Term show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.